You find drugs in your kid's room. What do you do? Join us for this important episode of Family Vision. Rob Rienow here alongside my wonderful wife, Amy.
Hey, great to be here.
Today we're going to have a tough conversation
Yep.
about a tough topic. Many times over the years, we get the phone call from the distraught parent who says, I just found drugs in my kid's room, in their backpack, in their car. What do I do? Now, obviously, every situation is different. Every situation is complicated, but there are some essential ingredients or key first steps that over the next 2 episodes that we want to share with you. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the first conversation. Your son or daughter gets home from school. You're going to sit down and talk. What are you going to say? What are you going to talk about? Next week's episode, we're going to talk about the action plan, the intervention plan for the next weeks, months, however long it takes to help your son or daughter find freedom and your family to find some healing. We're going to approach this very concretely and specifically, but we also know that this is a nuclear blast emotionally.
Yeah, I think sometimes the danger in how we're going to talk about this today is to present like a sanitized version of how you go about dealing with a problem like this in your family. And then the reality is this is always going to be messy and full of emotions, and there's no super clean process here. So we want to just start with giving yourself as a parent a lot of grace. I mean, the way you react to this, you're going to have emotions of anger and discouragement and fear. And all of those emotions, they just can overflow. So a lot of times you might try to have this conversation that you really want to have, and then it turns in a direction that you don't want it to go as far as your emotions. But I just want to start from the beginning to encourage you that that's okay. We can all recover from that. And you need to give yourself, first and foremost, a lot of grace. And you also need to go to the Lord in prayer. If you're a single parent or you're married, you need to be starting this process on your knees and asking the Lord, again, who is, as the scripture tells us, the wonderful counselor. Go to him and listen to the Holy Spirit as you are about to enter into a difficult process. And to remember too, and Rob often puts these notes together, but he just wrote something which is great. I want to just read it off the page, which I normally don't do, but it just says, the goal here is not how do I get my kids to stop using drugs or to stop drinking. The goal is spiritual transformation. The drugs, that's always a sign of something going on in the heart that needs to be dealt with. So again, it's not just stripping the behavior away, but it's getting to the heart issue underneath the behaviors. That's the goal.
Amen. So let's zero in on this first conversation. So first of all, you've made this discovery and you quickly want to find a time to talk face to face. Drop what you need to drop. Cancel what you need to cancel, get a babysitter, send the other kids to friends' houses, whatever you need to do. And we're going to give you 5 parts of this first conversation. The 5 parts are these. Number 1 is prayer. Number 2 is speak grace and truth. Number 3 is find the facts. Number 4 is choose a path. And number 5 is pray. So 1 and 5 are prayer. And then in the middle, grace and truth, find the facts, and choose a path. Now, what is this prayer? You are at the dinner table with your son, with your daughter. It is a prayer of humility. It is a prayer of neediness. It is a prayer of brokenness. It's a prayer for wisdom, just as Amy shared, asking God for his help. So after you pray, first thing we want to do is to speak words that are full of grace and full of truth. Amy, what would that sound like?
I would definitely be starting with, I love you and I'm committed to you. Like, this has been hard for me to discover that you're dealing with this, and I feel sad that you have been experimenting with these drugs and you haven't told us. So I'm feeling kind of hurt as a parent right now that I had no clue that this was happening. But I want to start by saying that I love you and I'm committed to you as a person, and I'm not going anywhere. But then I want you to know that I found this. I found these drugs in your room. I know.
We're speaking the truth here.
Yeah,
right?
I know that you have been hiding this from me. So you are lying to me. You've been deceitful. That you are keeping something from me, and I need to get to the bottom of what's going on here, because the bottom line is this is not going to be allowed in our house. And while you're under our roof and while we pay for your life, which is an expression I use a lot with my kids, while we pay for your life, this is not a behavior that we're going to tolerate in this house. So we need to get to the bottom of it. And I want to know all that there is to know about this. So that would be the beginning into the next phase of finding the facts.
Right. So just to reiterate that, Amy's speaking full of grace, full of truth. I love you. I'm committed to you. Here's what I know. And I am concerned and I'm burdened and I'm going to deal with this. And I love you and I'm committed to you. So number one, speaking grace and truth. Number two is finding the facts. Tell your son or daughter what you know, but what you know is only the tip of the iceberg. There's usually way more under the water. It's almost always the case with drugs and alcohol. You'll have many situations where a child will say, I just did this for the first time.
Right.
I just got it for the first time today. Is it possible they're telling the truth? Yes, it's possible.
Well,
in our
statistically,
experience,
what's our experience?
in our
that's the
experience, it
truth?
would be highly unlikely.
Like highly, highly, highly unlikely. I don't think we can stress that enough. And right?
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely. And that's one of the most difficult parts of this
Correct.
part of the conversation.
Right.
So you're going to need to look them in the eye. Please tell us everything. When did this start? What have you been using? Where have you been using it? Who else is involved? Why did it start? And I think as a parent, probably the most difficult part of this is realizing that how your child answers these questions is usually not the whole truth. And I hate to say that because I am like a naive, trusting, optimistic person.
I think one of the best phrases we've used with our kids, similar situations, we haven't been exactly in this one, but in the sense of just telling our kids, we'll say, this is the best time for you to tell us everything. Now, this is the best time.
Absolutely.
Most kids if they're really struggling with drugs, you're like Rob already said, you're probably not going to get everything at this point, but you got to communicate that you want everything, that you're expecting everything. And then also the phrase very clearly, do not be afraid to tell me everything at this point, because that's what your kids are fearing. They have a lot of fear right now that they've been caught.
A great point.
So when you open that door and say, I need you to not be afraid, because now's the time for you to tell me everything. This is the best time for you to tell me everything, because I'm going to be able to help you more if I know exactly what's going on. If you're hiding anything from me, if you think that you're going to make this, not as hard, if you're keeping anything back, that is a lie. And that's a lie from Satan. And it's a time to expose everything and get it into the light, Well,
you just put your finger on what's happening underneath. Sin hates the light. It loves the darkness. And you have to understand in your child's heart, there's all sorts of shame and horrible emotions going on there. This is going all the way back to Adam and Eve in the garden getting caught and hiding. Okay, so they're coming by this very, very honestly. Mm-hmm. What we're saying is you need to be prepared for the truth to leak out slowly. It would be wonderful if this first conversation is full confession, fantastic. I hope that's what you get.
And that's our goal in this conversation. We're trying to set them up for that. And I think the mistakes that we've seen parents make is that usually they get a confession and the parent wants very much to believe that that's it. And so they want to move quickly on, and they don't want to keep digging and keep giving that reminder, you need to tell me everything, And it's just very easy as a parent to also want to not look fully into the situation. So we're kind of addressing our own fears of, I know you're telling your kid, I know you're afraid that I'm not going to be able to handle all of the truth. I know that you're afraid of that, but the reality is I have to handle all the truth. Whether I'm afraid or not, we have to deal with all of the truth. So, let's work very hard at making sure we get to all of it. Don't leave anything uncovered.
And in this moment, it's okay to say to your son, to say to your daughter, I want to believe you with whatever they're confessing, but I can't completely believe you right now.
Right.
That may cause them to be very angry. What do you mean? I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you everything. Yeah. But to say, look, you've been doing this in secret. You have been deceiving us, and we want to trust you, and we believe that we are going to restore trust again. But right now, we have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we're hoping, I would even use that phrase, we're hoping to restore trust again. We want to be able to trust you, but trust has been broken, and when trust is broken, it takes a lot to rebuild it. And your kid needs to know very clearly that the trust is broken and you don't trust them. And communicate that clearly. I can't trust you right now. And
that's a weight that the child has to bear.
It's a consequence, and they have to face it. And the parent has to also face that. And that, I think, is almost just as hard, because I think a lot of parents have a really hard time facing the fact that their child isn't trustworthy right now.
All right, well, let's talk about this fourth step. Step 1, we're going to pray. Step 2, we're going to speak with grace and truth. Step 3, we're going to find the facts. Step 4 is choose a path. Explain to your son or daughter that there are 2 possible ways this can go in the coming weeks and coming months. One way is the teamwork way, the family way, that you and your son or daughter are actually going to work together to face into this challenge, face into this problem, where they say, yeah, mom, dad, I don't want drugs in my life. Where you say, son, daughter, we don't want drugs in your life. Let's work together to get drugs out of your life. That's one path. The other path is the solo path, where the son or daughter says, forget you. I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You don't have any control over my life. Leave me alone. There's no other option. There's no other path. There's the family together. Let's solve this together. And there's the go solo path. Now, as parents, explain to your son or daughter, you want to go down the family path. You want to go down the together path. We love you. We're committed to you. We want to work together with you to find freedom here. But son, but daughter, you're actually the one who gets to choose the path. We can't force you to go down that path. Now, we do want to be direct with you and tell you this solo path, if you choose to go down the road alone, it's an extremely unpleasant path for everybody. It's going to be horribly unpleasant for us because we're not going to be like working with you to deal with these things. We're basically just going to be trying to control your life and keep you away from drugs. It's going to be horrible for us. It's going to be horrible for you. We will go down that path if that's the path you choose, but please, please, please consider this family together path. Do you have any sense, son? Do you have any sense, daughter, about which path you would like to go down? Because it's going to dramatically affect the next few weeks and months, even years of our family. Amy, we're going to come back to this in our next episode, but quickly touch on this idea. I want to hit it a couple times, that this is a family issue first and foremost, not just a fix the kid issue, because I think a lot of parents get mixed up on that.
Especially when it comes to drugs and alcohol, it's really easy to very much focus on, I just have to fix this person, and I just have to fix this specific problem. And that kind of goes back to that beginning statement of thinking that the goal is just eliminating the drugs or the alcohol. There's always a heart issue underneath these things that has to be dealt with. And usually those things have family issues connected to it. So again, with that same mindset we've mentioned before of this Marine mindset, I call it, where nobody gets left behind, that we're in all this together, that we want to, as Rob said, the family path, we want to work on this all together. We want to come out on the other end a stronger family. And I think just a biblical principle to remind your kids at this point is that what Satan intends for evil, God can always turn to good. Not just sometimes, like always turn to good. And just to remind your kids that this is not too much for you guys to go through as a family, that you can come out, again, a lot stronger, that the enemy is the real enemy here is Satan. The real enemy is that he wants to use this to divide, to destroy your kid's life, to create much more problems and pain in your family life. But God is much bigger than that. And God is able to use this very dark time to bring you to a much healthier and better place. So give them that hope and give yourself that hope, to remind that as a parent that God can use this. And if you're willing, even if your kid is choosing the wrong path, let's say your kid is choosing the path that leaves you out and they have no desire to get better, you as a family, as a couple with your other kids, you can still go to the Lord and say, we know that the enemy wants to use this for evil, but we know that you can use this for good. So whoever is willing, bring that to the Lord and allow God to work how he wants to work in your lives. What does he want to do in your hearts with you going through this problem right now?
Take all the time that you need for this conversation, and at the right time, wrap it up with a short prayer. Again, this is a prayer of humility, prayer of neediness, a prayer of brokenness. Invite your son or daughter to pray. Don't guilt them or pressure them to do it. If they don't want to, and they may not, that's okay, but invite them to do it. If they're willing, it can be a powerful time of uniting your hearts as you face into this incredibly difficult situation. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to continue in our next episode by talking about the basics of the action plan. What are we going to do after this first conversation? And before we say goodbye today, let me encourage you to check out one of the new resources from our ministry partners at Christian Parenting called Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters. This is a video series for moms that will help you along the whole mother-daughter journey, no matter how old your daughter is. Again, it's called Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters, and it's a ministry through Christian Parenting. And you can find out all about it at cpguides.org. That's CP for Christian Parenting, cpguides.org. And as always, we would love to hear from you. You can reach us at podcast@visionaryfam.com. You can also connect with us on almost every social media channel. Join us on Instagram. Join us on Facebook. If you're listening to this on audio, maybe you need to check out the video version of the podcast over on YouTube and Rumble. Whatever social media you're on, just search Visionary Family Ministries. It's a great way to personally connect with us and get more hope and help for your family. And we look forward to our next time with you on Family Vision. It means so much to us to have you be a part of the Family Vision community. If this episode was meaningful for you, would you share it with a friend, with a family member? You can actually partner with us to bring hope and help to families around the world.
We are praying that Family Vision is a blessing to you and your family. So thank you for joining us here.
And we look forward to our next time together.